Well, I don't want to get too black pill fringe here, but I don't know that they really believe that or that they just have a goal here of you look at the largest farm landowner in the US is Bill Gates. He's also a big investor in fake meat companies. I think that our independent farmers and ranchers represent this sort of populist citizen sovereignty that I do think that there are, at the end of the day, some interests in our country that are totally opposed to that. You know, if you have people who can raise their own food and who can manage land and who own land, there's a lot of power in that. And I just don't think that these entities want us to have that kind of power. You know, if you look at Stalin attacking the farmers first, there's a pattern in history of oligarchs and dictators really going after the people who produce food. And there's an attitude of sovereignty. You know, Thomas Jefferson talked a lot about the ideal citizen being a farmer because he's talked about his agrarian ideal because you are sovereign in your own way. You produce something that's necessary for society. And you're self-sufficient, you're self-reliant, and you don't want government interference. And he just thought that was the ideal American citizen, the ideal American politician. There's something to that. And the more we get disconnected from our agriculture, I think we lose some of our sovereignty and our self-sufficiency. And I do think that serves interests that are, I don't want to sound too conspiratorial, but I think that there are globalist interests that don't want us to have that kind of autonomy and freedom. It's always these little ranchers, and ranchers are not, you know, it's not this industry you get into to become super wealthy. I mean, that is not what ranching is. And it's always those folks that the government goes after. You never hear of eminent domain cases against billionaires that own tons of acreage, or, you know, these Marin County hobby farms that are popping up everywhere. They seem safe. It's like the productive, the little guys that don't have all this disposable income and power who end up losing their home. So, and when you step back and see how often it's happening, not just in California, but all over the West, it's pretty scary.
I don't think it's conspiratorial at all. I think, especially here in California, our government, Sacramento, hates localization and they hate people governing themselves. And I think they want a top-down mentality. And of course, California and Sacramento, I think, is an extension, or at least the testing ground, where we're like the laboratory for a lot bigger interests. And whether that's the federal government, the statists and DC, or the globalists, it is this idea of like, they want top-down control, and they do it through California. And they don't like, you know, local governments. They don't like local representation. They don't like local school boards. They don't like you being self-sufficient. They don't want you to be able to take care of yourself. They want you to rely on the government. It's like this constant, like, no, we're going to take this stuff away from you so that you can't be self-sufficient, because if the people are self-sufficient, then they don't need us. They don't need the government to solve their problems. And therefore they won't be willing to pay more taxes or give us more power.